What's up, Craze Army? It's Crazens here, and we are back with the finals of the BPL Season 2. Now, I haven't made videos for most of the matches, but I don't know, there have been some highlights. There was week 6 when we tried to get our Flittle to sweep. There was week 2, which I did actually upload a video of with Choice Spec Screamtail. There was week 4 or 5. No, it must have been 5. Week 5 where Roaring Moon Dragon danced up and got 6 kills in one of the matches. But it's all been leading up to here. And then we obviously won in the semifinals in the playoffs, and we're in the finals playing against our rival David. Davo2544 and his Bexley Buizels. Now, the rivalry runs deep. I knocked him out of the BPL playoffs last season. He's coming back at me to return the favor this season. Obviously has that Dragapult, the best Pokemon in draft. Has Iron Treads, a Pokemon which I think is also one of the best in draft, at least in the Paldea Dex format. Has a Dondozo, which is the only thing that can check a Terra Roaring Moon, unfortunately. And he's got Sandy Shocks for hazard pressure, has that Knuckle Stack, I think it is, which has massive walling capabilities. And then obviously a Rotom, which can Volt Switch all over me because I can't switch my Gastrodon into it. So that being said, we don't have a great matchup here. That's okay. We have Roaring Moon. Just to go through our team, we have Roaring Moon holding the Choice Band, has the Terra Dark. Now, actually, I did record this live, but spoiler alert, in Game 2 and 3, because there was a Game 2 and 3, I got very quiet and focused, and my commentary was pretty bad, except for a moment or two. Game 1 was actually alright, but really the entire video was not very good, and there were like a couple of spots of commentary. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I'm doing this post-com. Now, as you can see, we've got our guys with Revival Blessing legal on Palmot. So we have a Sash Palmot with Revival Blessing. Got a Covert Cloak Toxapex to take on that little Knuckle, little Notchy. We've got Mimikyu, which is holding the red card to force out a potential Booster Energy Treads, which he's brought a lot of times. I don't know, a lot of times, but he brought it in the last round of the playoffs. So we thought there was a pretty decent chance he brings it here too. We have Gastrodon, whose main purpose is to switch into Dondozo, or it was to switch into Grafaiai, because we have Sticky Hold, so we cannot lose our Rocky Helmet, and also to set up hazards, because we want lots of spikes up on his side to get a lot of chip off. Screamtail is there then just for defensive purposes, doing Screamtail things, encoring, protecting, wishing, gleaming, you know, the usual. So here we I wanted to just lead with my Roaring Moon and try to pick up a KO on turn 1. I figured he's led Sandy Shocks most of the weeks, so I figured there's a decent chance he did that. And actually in a mock, my opponent led Sandy Shocks and Terra Fairied and knocked out my Roaring Moon on the first turn, which was really sad. So assuming he's not Terra Fairy on the Shocks, which I know he's not because he's sent his Terra types and he's Terra Grass, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's Terra Grass. He had a lot. I think he had 3 Terra Grass mounts to take care of Gastrodon. So really was worried about Gastrodon. Anyway, that's besides the point. We lead with Roaring Moon. We want to try to pick up a KO early in the game. And he does lead with the Sandy Shocks here. So we decided we're just going to go for the Terra Crunch because that should knock him out. And luckily for us, it does. So we cook right there. Obviously, we send our Terra types. So here he's got the Dondozo in. We can't really damage that thing. We don't even 2-shot with Crunch, and we would die to a Body Press. So we're going into Pex here. Pex is able to get an Ice Beam off because we have some offensive presence on this Toxapex this week. So here the Rotom's going for Leaf Storm, probably predicting a switch into the Gastrodon, which we don't do. We go into Rojogan, who pretty much eats that up. And he goes into his Knuckle Stack. We were able to get a Wish off to try to get ourselves more healthy. And we're going to go hard into our Pex because our Pex is in fact holding the Covert Cloak. So the Salt Courier does not affect us. Here I think he switches out into the Dondozo. And we are able to get a nice Acid Spray off on that. So this is our secret plan, is to hit all of his Pokemon that are not immune to Acid Spray with Acid Spray and lower their special defense. So here, I'm pretty sure his Rotom's in range, and I figure he's probably just going to go for Thunderbolt. So I stay in to try to knock it out, but he tricks me, which is very unfortunate, because now we've lost our main answer to the Knackle stack. And also, our Pex is locked into Ice Beam, which is very unfortunate. So here he goes into the Iron Treads. I assume he's going to go for a Rapid Spin here, and he does. So we get a little chip off on him with the Rocky Helmet. Here, I totally forgot he was Terra Grass, and he ends up just Terra Grassing, Terra Blasting, and I am totally cooked. Now, luckily, I have Mimikyu for just this situation, so that I can get a little chip off with Shadow Sneak, hits me with the Earthquake, and he gets red carded right out of there. And with that, he'll never be able to have that Quark Drive boost and attack again. So that's really nice. Here we're able to use our Wood Hammer, which we tech to hit this in the Dondozo, to get a little chip off on the Garganashi. And here I predict a recover, go into Rojogan, so that I can Encore him into it. And he does recover, and we're going to go for the Encore. I think he switched out, though. Yes, he does switch out to Dragapult, which is very unfortunate, because I know he likes his Specs Dragapult. So I figure he's going to be that. So I think I go for Protect to scout what he's going to do here. I figure he likes to click U-turn with his Specs Bolt too, even though Shadow Ball was pretty free into my team. So I am able to scout that. I figure he Specs. I figure he's going to go for it again. So I think I just fire off a Dazzling Gleam. Yes, I do just fire off a Dazzling Gleam. Now here, I think I didn't... Yeah, so I Protect. He goes for a Rapid Spin, I think. Yeah, to try to get a speed boost. And here I know that Iron Head won't kill me, but unfortunately he has the Heavy Slam, which will kill me. And so I lose my Scream Tail there, which was not good. So luckily I am going to be able to knock this thing out with Roaring Moon. But he goes into Dondozo. And we do get a nice defense drop to guarantee us the knockout on the next one, which forces a KO. And he sacks his Knackle stack here, which I don't think was the right play, because it did pretty well into the rest of my team outside of this thing. Like, it could beat Toxapex now that it was Choice Scarfed. Anyway, he does that, and he goes into this thing, and I figure I might as well risk the roll. So I hit it with the Crunch, knock it down to 4%. Unfortunately, he lives and is able to rest up. So here I don't want to take a Body Press off of Sleep Talk, so I'm going back into Toxapex. And at this point, since his Iron Treads is no longer Steel, I can pretty freely fire off an Acid Spray. Obviously, he Sleep Talks up Rest. But I also didn't want to take Rocky Helmet Chip on Moon. So I do just go for the Acid Spray. I lower his special defense. I figure he's probably going to click U-turn because that's what he always does. And he does click U-turn. And he goes into Dondozo. And obviously takes the Acid Spray, which can drop his special defense. So I'm pretty content to just keep clicking this. Obviously, I'm only getting 5% off on the Dragapult, but the chip is going to add up over time, and he can't do this forever. So he does finally go for the Shadow Ball. And we are able to Acid Spray him, lower his special defense again. And since we know he's locked in because he specs just based on the damage, we can go into our Roaring Moon, who actually has pretty good special defense. And here I think we predict the Dondozo and U-turn out. Nope, we just crunch. I think we crunch again, if I'm not mistaken. So just leave him low, because he is going to have to Sleep Talk this turn, yeah. And I think he does Sleep Talk Body Press and knock us out. Yep, which is a little unfortunate, but it's okay, because we would have died to Rocky Helmet anyway. But here we are able to go into Mimikyu. We're able to click Shadow Claw, and able to knock out the Dondozo. So at this point, he brings in Dragapult because it one-shots everything left on my team, not named Toxapex. Toxapex is Scarf, so he's not super worried anyway. So we do lose this thing to the Dragapult, but luckily we have Palmot, and normally Palmot would die to this Shadow Ball, but we have a Focus Sash, so we are able to just click the Ice Punch and knock out the Dragapult. And we are able to, again, just click the Ice Punch on the Iron Treads and take game 1. So it was a very well-played game. I think Davo probably could have won if he just clicked Shadow Ball more, but even in his other games that he's brought Specs Bolt, he usually just clicks U-turn. So I was pretty sure he was going to do that, and it ended up being, I ended up being right. He did do that a lot. But anyway, that's besides the point. So, Devo, if you happen to watch this, click Shadow Ball more. Because you want to be doing damage with a Specs Pokemon. You don't really just want to pivot out. Anyway, so after that 35 turns of battling, we are on to game 2. Now, one thing to note about the team I brought is I didn't bring my one form of hazard removal, which was Scyther. And I think Davin does that too. Now, I'm going with the same strategy of try to knock something out on the first turn with Roaring Moon. He goes Dragapult, which is obviously I can't stay in on it because he'll kill me with a Draco Meteor. Now, he just goes for the U-turn, which is smart because even if I stayed in, that would have been good for him because he would have gotten a lot of chip off and been able to switch in something. His Dondozo, most likely. Here you can see he goes for the Stealth Rocks on Sandy Shocks, and I was very worried at that point. Here, I'm not going to let my Rojogan die to another of those stupid heavy slams, so I'm protecting. And then we're going to switch out to Gastron, predicting him to not go for another Earthquake, but he unfortunately does go for another Earthquake, and will not take us out with the next one. So he does go into Rotom, which, as you see, does pretty well into my team, especially because you can trick now, I've learned. And so I just go into Scream Tail because it's my best answer to it. And he brings in Dragapult, which almost essentially claims a KO against my team. I have to protect to scout what he's going to do and hope he U-turns, but I think he just Shadow Balls here. Yes, he does. So I don't really have a great pivot into this outside of Roaring Moon. And Toxapex, which can take a couple hits. And I do go Toxapex. I take 39, which is quite a bit. And I'm able to threaten him out with the Ice Beam, and I think I go for the Ice Beam here. No, I just go for the Recover to try to keep myself healthy. So he sets up the spikes, which is pretty bad, because I have no way to remove these spikes or Stealth Rocks. So I'm going to have to live with them for the entire game. I go for Acid Spray so I can try to do more damage to him, but it's really, Sandy Shocks pretty much beats my Toxapex here. He just volts out. And now I have 2 spikes plus Stealth Rocks on my side and no way to remove them, which is very unfortunate. I'm able to get a crit on the Iron Treads. It's not quite enough to make a whole lot of a difference. Here we are pivoting back into Gastron because I thought we could live 2. We unfortunately cannot. And we lose our Gastron there. Here we're just going to palm up because our Sash is broken no matter what from the hazards. And he makes a correct call, goes into Dragapult, and we just have to sack Palmont here because we're completely out of switch-ins to Specs Bolt. Here we have to go into our Roaring Moon because it's the only thing that can take a Shadow Ball at all. And he just goes into Dondozo, and we really have no answer for this. We're getting completely destroyed. The hazards are too much chip, and here I'm just going for Crunch again to try to catch him on some misplay or something, but he just body presses, makes the correct play. So we're going into Rojogan here just because that's faster than the Dondozo, and we are able to knock it out. And from here it's not looking great though because it's 3v5 at this point, and I have max hazards pretty much. I didn't think that Rojogan could live a Shadow Ball at this point. Otherwise, I would have played this differently. But I just click Dazzling Gleam here on the next because I know nothing can switch into this. But I, in fact, learned that I only take 57%, which is pretty nice. So had I been able to play this differently, I may have been able to stall out these Shadow Balls a little more effectively. But, alas, it's okay. Probably would have been unimportant. But as you can see, Rojogan does go down. We lose our last big piece. We're able to go into Mimikyu here though and just click Shadow Sneak, and unfortunately not knock him out, although I don't know that it would have mattered much had we knocked him out. And we do red card him out, obviously into this thing. and there's not much we can do but pivot into Pex to avoid the Salt Cure. Just playing for dignity at this point. We do recover. We do, I think, just click an acid spray here, but I don't remember much. We do click acid spray, yes. And here we completely lose to the Iron Treads because it can just Earthquake this, and it can Earthquake our Mimikyu. And unfortunately, in a very unceremonious way, we are destroyed in Game 2 of the finals. Luckily, we won Game 1. So after this, I'm thinking, wow, it's very lucky we knocked out that Sandy Shocks turn 1 last time. I'll have to try to do that again. So I did spend some time between Game 2 and 3. Well, I mean, we immediately went into this, but I sat at Team Preview for a little while, thinking about a way to beat the Sandy Shocks, and I concluded that I have to bring in Roaring Moon, use Roaring Moon to force in the Dondozo, and after the Dondozo is forced in, I have to go into Gastrodon and get up my own spikes. And that way, I'll force him to play with the same hazards that I have, and that was my plan. And the part of the reason I had spikes on here anyway was because if I got 2 spikes up, I guaranteed to it KO'd Dondozo with Roaring Moon, or spikes in Stealth Rock up, either way. And that was part of my game plan coming in, but I hadn't really used it in the first 2 games, so I was going to try to really use it here in Game 3. He leads Rotom this time, which I already knew was Choice Scarf, and he is able to just click that, and we do go for the U-turn because it would have knocked out Rotom, and it also allows us to pivot out of this thing into Gastrodon, which is really nice. And we are able to just start by getting our Stealth Rocks up. He goes into Shocks to try to counter with his own hazards, and we just get our spikes up. I think we just go for another layer of spikes as he goes for rocks. No, we go for the Earth Power to knock him out. And here, I was really afraid that he was just going to go for a Terra Blast Grass, so I go into this guy. And we do get him in for free, though, because he set spikes. And we're able to knock out the Sandy Shocks. Now here is potentially the biggest turn of the finals. So he comes in, his Iron Tread takes spikes, and it takes Stealth Rocks, putting it at 85%. Now, his Iron Treads could go for the Rapid Spin here. If his Iron Treads goes for the Rapid Spin, I am again down in hazards. I am down 2 layers to none. And at that point, I probably lose the game. My Crunch has a 75% chance to KO if I Terra. And has a 75% chance to KO if I Terra. Now, here, I was thinking about going into Mimikyu to block the Rapid Spin, but after that, Mimikyu can't touch this thing at all. So, I make the decision that Roaring Moon has not let me down this season yet. Well, except for in Week 1. Actually, Roaring Moon let me down pretty hard when it didn't KO a Sea Titan. But I thought Roaring Moon is not going to let me down in the finals. Roaring Moon is going to hit this one. And I'll cut to that was one of the good live clips, but I'll cut to that one. 75%, dude. Yes, let's go. So after we knocked out the Iron Treads, we go into Dondozo. He goes into Dondozo. We are able to just safely pivot out into Gastrodon. Gets a crit on the Earthquake, which is a little unfortunate. He is able to go into Rotom as I get up another layer of spikes. I predict him to predict me to do something else, but he just goes for the Leaf Stone, which is fine, because now he can pivot into Screamtail. It's probably not the best decision to just stay in there, but that's the decision I made. And we're able to get a Dazzling Gleam off, which is nice, because now the Dragapult dies to hazards. And we know we live a Shadow Ball too, so I'm going to protect, get up to extra health to just hopefully ensure against a crit. He hits me with a Shadow Ball, just 61%, and we're able to knock him out with a Dazzling Gleam, which is really nice. So from there, he's going into the Knuckle stack, takes a bunch of hazard damage, pivots out to the Rotom for some reason, as I Dazzling Gleam I think I was trying to two-shot the Knuckle stack from there. Protect on the Volt Switch to scout what he's going to go for. Now I think I wish up knowing that I'm going to live the Volt Switch. And he's going to take even more damage on the Knuckle stack, which is great. I think I'm just going to Dazzling Gleam for damage here. Only does 12, unfortunately. Screamtail's 65 special attack is not really doing it here. We were able to encore him into recover, hopefully waste some of that 8 PP of recover. Goes into Rotom-Mow, takes more Stealth Rock Chip. This is great. Rotom-Mow can trick us here. I didn't think he would. I thought he would predict something else. But unfortunately, we get tricked. And now we're tricked into Dazzling Gleam, which there are worse things. So here he's able to get a pretty free switch into his Knuckle Stack, but we have Toxapex. So we can sit here and never get damaged by the Salt Cure. But he has the Terra Steel, so he can't be hit by our Acid Spray either, which is very unfortunate. We were able to haze away his defense boosts, and this will go on for some time of us hazing, acid spraying. I don't remember how many turns it goes on for. Oh, wait. So eventually he switches out into the Dondozo, takes more Hazard Chip with this, which is great, on a turn that I haze. And here goes for the Earthquake, does 34%, which is quite a bit. I didn't see how the Earthquake was probably here, so the Dondozo did not get walled by my Toxapex. But I'm just going to stay in. I'm going to click Acid Spray. I'm going to try to do some damage to this. Clicking Sleep Talk there is kind of a throw because you want to conserve PP in this kind of a situation, but it's not going to really matter. I am able to just hit him with some nice... here we go. Anyway, so I probably should have wished here, but instead I just go for the chip with the Dazzling Gleam because I was hoping to knock out the Dondozo if he stayed in. But here I predict a recover. I decide I want the game to end, and I know that my Palmot can KO the Garganacl, or the Knuckle Stack from here. So I just come in, bring him in, go for close combat, and go for close combat again to knock out the Dondozo. And with that, we are your back-to-back BPL champions. Season 1, the Doubles League, we took it. Season 2, the Singles League, took it again. And not only that, but we took it with one of my favorite Pokemon, Palmot. It really has grown on me since I drafted it in the first draft league I played in Scarlet and Violet. And, wow, I really like this little guy. He's really good. But anyway, yeah, I really like Palmot. And I also have really enjoyed using Screamtail. Screamtail's become one of my favorites. Roaring Moon, I liked using it. I like it. It's just not as much as those other two. But I'd say those are 3 of my favorite Pokemon. 3 of my favorite new Pokemon. But we did it. We are the champions back-to-back of the Buckeye Pokemon League. So, with that, I just want to say I think my opponent played a great game. I think the Hazards was a great game, great adjustment into Game 2. And I think if that roll didn't go that way on Iron Treads, the game could have gone very, very differently. But, the more you attack, the more likely it is you're going to get high rolls, the more likely it is you're going to get crits. So always clicking the attacking move and always being faster is the best strategy. Also, something I did want to note. If anyone is happening to be watching and wants to get better at Draft League, my Roaring Moon was Adamant, and Adamant Roaring Moon does not outspeed Jolly Iron Treads, but I knew he was going to be Adamant because I knew he liked that Booster Energy set, and to run the Booster Energy set, you have to have an Adamant Iron Treads. So it's stuff like that. Watching other people's replays to know what they like to bring, and then building your team based off that is part of what makes Draft League, part of what can give you an edge in Draft League. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. You too, yeah. Also, if Davo ever happens to watch this, maybe I'll send it to him. But don't run the same set every single time. Like, I know the only 2 sets I'm pretty sure I ever saw you run were the Booster Energy or Assault Vest Iron Treads. And the Assault Vest, I think, was Jolly, but I was pretty sure you were going to bring the Booster Energy into me. But, I mean, it probably was the best set into my team. I don't know. It's just a trade-off. Don't be too predictable. But anyway, with that, I'm going to get out of here. Catch you on the flip side.